everybody. My name is Kevin Deming, and welcome to my podcast called Perspective Matters. This is where we're going to be talking about a biblical approach to discussing how our perspective matters, and it shapes our understanding of how we see life, situations, and people in the middle of a problem. Hope you enjoy. Well, welcome to another episode of Perspective That Matters. Glad you could join in. This podcast today is going to be devoted to understanding our perspective in the middle of a problem. And for us, we are in a pandemic, and our perspective has definitely been questioned. Now, what we're going to look at today is this idea that many of us, we found that during this season, we have seemed lost, or maybe we feel like we don't have purpose. We've seen our world change. You know, for us, maybe you feel like it's harder to be a mom or a dad in this season, a coworker or a boss. Maybe you're no longer employed, or your position in your job has been shifted because of the new demands of how we do things. I've heard from many people that they've had trouble finding their purpose in this season. So today's podcast really is for anyone who's struggling with purpose, or anyone who's leading a team and wants to help them as they're feeling lost or needing purpose. So if you are, then I wanted to talk to you today. This is for you. It's for you to hopefully share with some people as well. But I wanted to mention to you that today I kind of had one of those epiphany moments. And what I mean by that is this. I've heard all this before. I've heard this. You've heard this. I get it. Why should you listen to the rest of this podcast? You've heard, you know what people are going to say. I get it. But today, for some reason, something really clicked with me. And I want to share that with you. And so with that, today, I hopefully will be able to give you a little bit of what maybe worked for me, and hopefully it will work for you too. So if you're feeling a little bit lost at all, if you're feeling like your purpose has been shifted, changed, you're upside down a little bit, or if you're leading a team of people who you're wondering if they're feeling that way, then just give this a shot today and see. Maybe this is something that can help you work through that with them. However, before we get to the epiphany, before we get to this idea and concept that we've all heard before, but maybe just another slant on it, I wanted to let you know it is now time for, yes, you heard it, joke of the day. All right, so here goes. Here's a joke. So teacher was talking to little Johnny, and of course, you know how school has been over the season, and so it's kind of like through Zoom. She has connection with little Johnny and the class, and she's asking the different kids, "Hey, how is your counting going?" And got to little Johnny and said, "Hey, Johnny, how is your counting going? Are you doing better with that? Are you doing good?" And he said, "Oh, yes, my dad has been teaching me counting." She's like, "Oh, great. That is so great. So tell me, what comes after 4?" And Johnny says, "5." She says, "Oh, that's really good. What comes after 7?" And Johnny goes, 8. She goes, "That's really good. I'm so proud of you. I can really tell that you've been working on your accounting." She says, "Let's try this. What comes after 10?" And little Johnny says, "Jack." All right. I don't know if you got that or not, but yes, he's been learning counting by playing cards. Well, I guess maybe there's a little loss on the purpose of little Johnny learning his numbers here. Maybe he needs to find his purpose and trying to figure that out. But either way, at least he's learning some numbers, right? And way to go, Dad, for spending time with little Johnny. All right. So getting back to finding our purpose. So have you felt lost? Have you felt a lack of purpose? Have you felt like you were struggling to find your place in this craziness? Or maybe you're leading a team that feels that way. So that's you. This is for you today. I wanted to talk through a few things that you can do to get yourself back on track, or also your team. So really the first thing that I was thinking about as I was kind of hitting this today, and I've just been really praying through, all right, how do I continue to help people that are on my team as well as myself? Because I'll be honest with you, I have heard from a number of people. I've heard just in myself knowing that, man, we're tired. We're just tired right now. We're a little bit exhausted. We're trying to figure out how things are working differently, all the way from things at home, things in the neighborhood, things out in the community, things at work. All those things just feel different. And man, with our world just exploding right now with so many things going on, we just have a lot of questions. So for me, I began to think about what is it that I'm struggling with. Well, sometimes I struggle with when things change, you feel like your purpose loses its meaning. Well, what I want us to begin to do is shift the idea that our purpose is something different. So first thing I want you to do, no matter where you're at, if you're driving down the car, you're sitting there at home, or watching this on YouTube, whatever you're doing, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to just pause for just a second, and I want you to answer this question on your own. Or if you're there with other people, I want you to ask each other this question. And here's the question. Who are you? Yep, I said it. Who are you? I want you to take 30 seconds to a minute and just simply answer the question, who are you? All right, so hopefully you paused for just a minute. Hopefully you thought for just a minute and you began to answer that question. But here's the thing. I don't know how you answered. If I was with you, I would talk to you a little bit more about what I heard and what was there. But today, I want to challenge you. If you mentioned anything about your job, the position you hold or the position you don't hold, the idea that you're who you are is what you do for a career, what you do for a living. I want to challenge you because I think you're probably struggling. And here's the reason why. Because with a job shifts, job changing, job expectations, if I let the position that I hold determine my purpose, then when that shifts, my purpose crumbles. So here's how maybe I would answer this. Maybe I would answer it this way. For me today, as I began thinking about it, I said, all right, what is it? How would I answer this person? And I would simply say this, you know what? I'm a guy who loves Jesus. I am. I don't have it all figured out. Life is messy, life is hard, but I love Jesus, and I want people to know that. For me, I want to become more like Christ in the way that I love and the way that I live. And that being an outflowing, outpouring of loving God and loving others. So if that's the case, if my purpose is to become more like Christ in the way that I love and the way that I live, then all of a sudden something is a little different with me, isn't it? Now my purpose doesn't need a position. I don't need a particular job. I don't need to be a particular place. Simply need to be wherever I'm at to be used by God in the way that He has for me to be used. So with that, the main thought of today is this: is that we should let our purpose be the overflow of everything we do. So here's the thing: if my purpose is to become more like Christ, then that should overflow into everything I do, not the other way around. If you let your position determine your purpose will only be as big as your position. Let me say that again. If you let your position determine your purpose will only be as big as your position. I don't know about you, but man, I want to be a part of something bigger than me. And my position and what I can hold and what I can do as a person, man, God is so much bigger than that. I'm just a little part of God's story out there in the world trying to make an impact. And you want to make an impact in this world? Well, we can't fix it all. No one person here, there's nothing I could do that could fix the entire world. I can barely fix the world around me. I can't fix the whole world, but I can make a difference that's bigger than me if I join in a purpose that's bigger than me. See, if I let my passion ignite my purpose, then I can dream bigger. I can be bigger. I can allow God to do some bigger things in my life than I ever imagined. I remember one time I was working with the student ministry, and I was working with our worship leader. I remember just sitting there talking to him, and I remember coming to me, and we were just talking a little bit. And he's like, he was just gifted, just a talented person, man, just really gifted, could sing great. But I remember challenging with this. I said, look, let's just say his name was Johnny, because we're going to go with Johnny right now. But I said, hey, Johnny, here's the deal. If in your life, if you strive to use your gift and your talent and your ability to be the amount of what you can do in your life and accomplish your life, you will only do Johnny size things. I don't know about you, But man, wouldn't it be great if we put our faith and trust in God and what he was doing and the bigness of who God is? Let that be the overflow of our life. I said, then you're not doing just Johnny-sized things in the way you lead worship. You're leading people to God. You're pointing to him. And now you can do God-sized things. And it changes everything. So if my purpose is bigger than me, man, then I'm going to see God do some cool things. If in my position in ministry, it's great. I love that I have a chance to see this play out in the people God has placed in my life. As a husband or father, this person drives me to show more love to my family. As a friend or a neighbor, this purpose encourages me to find ways to love others. I don't need someone else to give me a list of tasks or things to do in order to understand that my purpose is so much bigger than what I do. And the great thing about it is nothing in my life that happens determines this purpose. Nothing. Anything that goes on in my life, it can play a role in how that purpose plays out, but it doesn't shake the purpose. My purpose is if it's in Christ and who he is, and that stands firm no matter what happens around me. So for me, I love that. The reason I find my person in becoming more like Christ is so that others may come to know him. Simply put, if we look at what was the purpose of Christ coming to earth, it was all summed up in Luke 19, chapter 10. It says this, for the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. That's it. If we think about what Christ's purpose was, what the purpose of Jesus coming to earth was, he came, everything he did from birth until he was sitting in the right hand of God was so that people like you and people like me could be restored to God through what he did on the cross and through the power of his resurrection. Life can be had now because of what he's done. So for me, who am I? Man, I'm a guy who loves Jesus. I'm a guy who belongs to Christ because of what he's done on the cross. Who am I? Well, I'm someone who wants to become more like Christ in the way that I live and the way that I love so that people may see God. So what's your purpose? Well, if you're a Christian and you belong to Christ, I hope that God has given you a purpose that involves loving others with your gifts, with your talents, with your skills, to be able to use that so people may come to experience God. If you're unsure of what you believe, my encouragement is take some time. Think about who you are. Realize that what you're passionate about and who you are shapes what you do. Don't make the mistake of equating your purpose to your position, no matter what you believe. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. Hopefully this is encouraging to you like it was for me, and realizing, yeah, I've heard this before. I've heard this whole idea and concept that don't let our things determine our purpose, and don't let our identity be wrapped up in what we do. I've heard that, but today it just simply resonated with me. It made sense when I saw it from the perspective that, you know what, my purpose doesn't change because of my circumstances. And if my purpose is not in my position, it can be about what God wants, and that doesn't get shaken no matter what comes up. So for me, hopefully you'll find that too. Well, thanks again for tuning in today. Please share this with people you know. If you're not already subscribed to my podcast, please do that. I'll be trying to do a podcast about once a week or so. Follow me on YouTube as well. Look up Kevin Deming, and also follow me on Twitter at Kev Deming. Hopefully to see you next time, and thanks for joining in.